Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I'm joined by my two co hosts, Michael Reed.
It is weird. You did me first this time. I
I
wasn't
know.
ready
I
for it.
switched
But
it up
what's
on you
up?
guys.
So,
And Michael Hall.
I almost said, "Hey, what's up?" on the first Michael.
just
So
out of reaction. Yeah.
Hey,
just trying to be on my toes.
yeah, usually I go with Hall, but I want to make sure you guys are up and at it. And speaking of up and at it, the Washington football team, I'm not sure where this is because it almost looked like FedEx from the video, but they took down the HTTR, the Hail to the Redskins. I don't know what it's called, but it's like a fat head that you would put on like a cement wall. I don't know how to describe it. They like took it down in like sheets, if that makes any sense. And Washington football Twitter was up in riots. I mean, there was people that were like, this is messed up. I don't want to see the body, acting like it's a dead person, terrible as it is. But what was your guys' immediate reaction? So Reed, let's go to you first.
I mean, it that's to be expected. They're not called the Redskins anymore. Unfortunately, they don't have a name right now. I mean, if they were to have renamed themselves something that started with an R, then obviously they could keep that. But this season, it just doesn't make sense. So who knows? Maybe they could bring back HTTR if they do end up going back with a name that starts with R down the road next season or something. But right now, it just doesn't make sense. Yeah, it sucks to see, but just got to get used to it.
Yeah, and that's what I said. It's the reality of the situation. It sucks. Nobody wants to see it, but the fact is, it's inevitable. This is where the team is going towards. There's no reason to fight it and complain about it. And I think this gives a lot of credence to the new name not being affiliated with any R word, making sure that they're taking that away. Hall, what was your immediate reaction?
Yeah, my first reaction was what you just said was maybe they're not gonna listen to the public and go with Red Wolves because if that was the case, they could just leave it up and then be like, "Oh, we're gonna just adopt it into next season." But yeah, I mean, I was kind of just laughing at some of the reactions on Twitter because it's like you said, they even said on like Washington football team's Twitter even said like a clean slate, fresh start, and people were like, "Why are you showing me this?" Well, they just told you why. It's a clean slate, fresh start. And so, I mean, like you said, you got to get rid of everything Redskins related. Unfortunately, I mean, I love the team, and
Right.
I can see why people are up in arms about it. But again,
But it's just like when the Wizards changed from the Bullets to the Wizards. They had to remove any logos, anything that was associated with Bullets. That's just the way that it was because
exactly.
that team is dead. It's no more. People just got to accept that with the Redskins. They don't exist anymore.
Yeah, and that's the reality of the situation. It sucks, and I know that everyone is fighting tooth and nail over this, but the fact is, we can't be children about it. This is happening. It sucks. And look, I know I'm wearing an HTTR sweatshirt right now, but the fact is, I'm not sitting over here crying about it. It is what it is. And there was a couple people from from the Washington football team organization spoke to reporters recently, and let's get into Kendall Fuller's interview, which was I thought was a great one. He's a great personality. Reed, do you have some of those quotes for us?
Yeah. Kendall Fuller. He had a lot of good stuff to say, basically about Ron Rivera, as everybody does. But one thing that really stuck out to me was him talking about Chris Harris, the new defensive backs coach. He said that Chris Harris has brought an energy and passion even to the Zoom meetings, and he's trying. His quote was, "He's trying to get us right," and he kind of mirrored what Chris Harris said. How Chris Harris said that he wants the DBs to learn every position. Kendall Fuller says that he can play every position. He's learning every position, and it comes naturally for him because at Virginia Tech, that's what his secondary coach had them do. He had them learn every position, every responsibility. So it's good to see. I think that Chris Harris is definitely bringing a new type of energy. He's a young guy who's had success, and it's good to see that a veteran like Kendall Fuller's seen that.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. And look, Chris Harris is the perfect person to kind of help this team get up and running. And we also can't forget Kaishan Jarrett is also helping that secondary as well. And there's no one better for Kendall Fuller to be
Right.
coached by and helped by with an assistant in Kaishan Jarrett. That guy played with his hair on fire, and he played the game of football the correct way. It's unfortunate what happened to him with his injury and the nerve damage in his neck that stopped him from playing football. But look, the fact that he could still have an impact on this team is awesome to see. What about you, Hall? What was your reaction to that?
Yeah, I love what he said. Again, going back to the whole versatility thing. I mean, Kendall's played both free safety, cornerback. He's played the slot. Obviously, he was the highest rated slot corner with the Redskins or the Washington football team back when he was here last time. So just him being there in the locker room and trying to just giving his kind of techniques and kind of just like showing the guys like Jimmy Moreland, Fabian Monroe, and guys like that, like, hey, this is how I play this position. This is my point of view from the safety position. This is my technique I use in the slot. Maybe this is like my hand techniques I use on the outside. So just having someone that's been there and done that and played both positions, all three positions, I guess you could say, is going to be great for the cornerbacks room. And like you said, Chris Harris, again, just a Super Bowl caliber type of guy. And also him being with the Chargers. And I think Landon Collins is going to be a really big player as well, just because he worked with Derwin James last year, and they're kind of the same mold. So I can't wait.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say. When you look at the Chargers defenses, so many players play so many different positions. And I mean, you look at a guy like Desmond King. Desmond King plays safety. He plays inside. He plays outside corner. And then Derwin James. Derwin James plays a lot of linebacker sometimes up close to the line, plays in the box. He plays back in coverage. And that's exactly what I think they're planning on doing with Landon Collins. I'm excited for it personally. Kendall Fuller also said that our goal this year is to be the best defense in the league. So he has high expectations for this Washington football team defense. I know we all do. How do you guys feel about him saying that?
Yeah, I think he's spot on. I hate when Washington football players come out with these kind of expectations. You know, I talked about it with like Pierre Garçons or Santana when he was here talking about the offense, I think in like 2013. I hate when that happens, but I think Kendall is just that confident, and this is a different era. There's a different organization right now than it was back then. Coming from someone like Kendall, I think it says a lot because Kendall is not the type of guy that just does stuff for clout. You know what I mean? So when he says that, he means it. And look, I said it on Burrow's podcast yesterday. You guys go check out the DC Tweet Team podcast. I was on their show yesterday, and I absolutely love the kind of attitude that this team is bringing, and the fact that where they're weak on defense, they have great coaching at. You know, Jack Del Rio being a former linebacker, Ron Rivera being a former linebacker, and then you can talk about the cornerback position, but they have Chris Harris. They have Kaishan Jarrett also helping there, and then the safety position with Landon Collins and Ryan Davis. So the places where they're weak at on defense, they have very, very good coaching, and I've always said this, you know, good coaching elevates players' play, and when you have that there, this defense is very, very scary. They were already good before adding Chase Young.
Yeah, they finished number 10 in the league in sacks last year. So, I mean, obviously it was a very quiet, like top 10 in leading the league in sacks. And if you go back and look at it, I mean, the defensive metrics from the team last year were not that bad. It was just third down. They were just probably, I think, last in the league, if not bottom of the league, somewhere around there. But I just think that they can definitely have the potential to be top 10, even top 5. And someone like Kendall Fuller, who obviously played for the Chiefs last year, and the Chiefs went on that kind of crazy run in the defense and throughout the playoffs. So he knows what it takes to be a championship caliber defense. And again, with him playing at the high level that he did at the slot back when he was with us before, I think that he's right with his quotes that they want to be the best, and just having that attitude coming in there every day to the stadium and to the park. I mean, I feel like with the last coaching staff, they might have had that kind of mentality, but it was kind of just a laid back kind of, like you said, a whole like, I want to get my stats kind of mentality. I want to get me
Right.
kind of mentality. So I think this is like a whole like defensive unit team. I think they're going to be top 3 or top 5 in my opinion.
Yeah, and then switching to a 4-3, you know, the linebackers have to be able to cover a lot of space. Sean Dion Hamilton was rated by Pro Football Focus as one of the best pass covering linebackers in the league last season. And then you talk about Cole Holcomb, who ran a 4.4, 4.5 in it at the combine coming out of the draft. And so that's a guy that can cover a lot of space. So where they're weak at, they are built for the defense that they're going towards. And I think that with the coaching staff that's in play,
Right.
I think it's going to be an easy transition for them, no doubt.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I mean, their weaknesses are kind of going to be masked by this defensive line and by this secondary, which I think the secondary is extremely underrated. I think that they're going to come out and play. But one of the people in the secondary, I'm going to talk about his quotes about 2 players. He's kind of echoing things that we've heard all offseason, especially recently. He talked about Jimmy Moreland. He said Jimmy Moreland has a dog mentality and doesn't shy away from anyone. So you love to hear that. And then about Chase Young, He said he just has that vibe when you walk by him. He doesn't seem like a rookie. He seems like a professional already. So that's just good things. Those are things that you've heard from multiple people. So, I mean, it's got to be true about the way Chase Young carries himself and about Jimmy Moreland's dog mentality and how people expect him to have a pretty good year.
Yeah, and we had Coach Savage on Tuesday, and his kind of respect and confidence in Jimmy Moreland said a lot. Talking about those drills where, they aren't designed for the DB to get the interception, and 9 times out of 10, Jimmy Moreland's coming down with an interception. It just speaks, go at JMU, he had 18 interceptions over the course of his career there, which is unheard of, especially at his height and everything, and jumping out of the gym. Everyone is writing him off as a slot corner. Don't see it. I think that he can play outside and inside each side. But also people are forgetting about Fabian Moreau and Ronald Darby as well. So look, they have depth at those positions as well.
Yeah, I know that Rivera was talking about Ronald Darby in one of his interviews, saying that the skill set hasn't really diminished in their opinion, and then when they scouted him and brought him in free agency. And if you actually really think back to his Eagles, I think with the Eagles last year, he was getting mossed a lot, but he was in position. He was just not playing the ball very well. So I think that Ron Rivera was talking about what their techniques are going to teach him, that with his skill set not really diminished as far as like he's a kind of an older player in his career. I think he'll return almost back to like Eagles form as far as playing the receiver well and being in position. But again, it's just about playing the ball. But as far as Jimmy Moreland goes, like we said before, Chris Harris said that your defense is only as tough as your cornerbacks willing to come up and make a tackle. And like I said before, Jimmy Moreland, and he doesn't shy away from tackle. He doesn't shy away from contact. So with him being on the outside, I could definitely see him holding his own out there.
Right. And a lot of people forget that Ronald Darby, his first 2 years in the league with the Bills, he was considered one of the best young cornerbacks in the game. He was an up-and-comer. And he's got all the physical tools, all the athletic traits that you want. So he's somebody who I think could have a very big year with the right coaching. Yeah. And then Kendall Fuller also talked about his time in Kansas City. He said that one of the main things I picked up from Kansas City is when you're in the building, the work never stops. He says in Kansas City, players are always working on their craft, and that's the mentality that Ron Rivera has. He wants you to constantly get better. When you're in that building, you're working. That's your job. You're in that building. You're trying to get better, perfect your craft. And he sees that with Ron, and he saw that with his time with the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, and hopefully Kendall helps with that transition to this new organization and brings those practicing habits. I talked about this last night on Burrows' podcast. I'm a big Michael Jordan mark, and last week I was able to finally watch all of The Last Dance.
It's so good.
And the one quote that I took away from it was Michael Jordan talking about practice, and he said, look, I push these guys so hard at practice for a reason, and that's because I've been to the playoffs. I've seen what happens to the playoffs, and if you can't keep up with me at practice, then you cannot deal with the other teams in the playoffs. And I think that says so much about the competitive nature, and that's the kind of attitude, mindset that I think that Ron Rivera is going to instill here, and that's kind of what Kendall Fuller is alluding to. What you put in off the field shows on the field.
Yeah, I mean, look at the dynasty that New England built. I mean, it was all about going to practice every day, just doing your job, coming in there with the same work ethic, the same consistency every day. And look what they've done over the past 20 years, just multiple championships, multiple Super Bowls.
Yep. And
it's kind of like that Tom Brady effect where he's down in Tampa Bay right now, and all the quotes are just like he just walks in the building and he just demands excellence, and it kind of just trickles down to the rest of the players where, you know what, I want to be excellent for that type of player. So, like you said, Kendall Fuller, he's won a Super Bowl. He knows what it takes to get there. And just going back to Andy Reid, I mean, everyone says the same things about Rivera that they say about Andy Reid, where he's such a good guy. He's a great coach, a great mentor, and he just demands excellence of you, but kind of in a different way because Andy Reid's not like a yeller like Ron Rivera is.
Right.
But, so, I mean, like I said, just demanding excellence and that kind of trickle-down effect where, hey, I've been there, done that, guy, so, like, watch how I prepare and watch what I do, and this is what it takes to get there.
Yeah, and the one thing I was saying last night, whenever you're trying to bring pressure on the players, making sure that you're increasing the practice and the kind of tenaciousness, the kind of mindset that you have at practice, if you're a lack kind of coach, if you don't showcase that you care about the players, they're not going to fight for you. And when we had Morgan Moses on the podcast a couple months ago, he talked about how his father passed away, and Ron Rivera was the first person to call him.
Yeah.
And so when you talk about, Jay Gruden and why they weren't able to really extend into the playoffs and do well in the playoffs and become a dominant team, I really feel because the players and Jay didn't have that connection. Even though Jay was you could be considered a player's coach, just didn't have that kind of connection. You didn't
Right.
feel that connection. And with Ron Rivera, that's what he's doing here. He's building that family atmosphere. So when he does get into their ass, they know it's for a good reason because he's trying to make them better. It's not because he doesn't like them or whatever have you. He cares about them, and that's why he wants to get the best for them. And I think that goes a long way with having that kind of bond with players.
Right. And speaking on Ron Rivera, this is the last quote from Fuller before we move on to our wide receivers coach. But he was asked about the difference from the last time that he was here to now. And he says that Coach Rivera is bringing a culture change. He wants to trust us, and he wants us to trust him. And I think that was huge. I mean, for him to notice that it is a completely different organization right now under Ron than it was under Jay, and talk about trust. Ron Rivera always talks about trust and how he wants to be a family, and you got to trust each other and rely on each other. And so he's already stressing that. We haven't even really began training camp yet. I think that's huge, and it just everybody has nothing but great things to say about Ron so far.
Yeah, they gotta have that Earl Thomas family bond in the building.
Nobody wants to be that close.
No, nobody wants to be that close.
Nah, yeah, I mean, like you said, players want to play for a coach that actually like genuinely cares about them, and obviously players have been doing this their whole lives, so they can kind of tell who's the fake, like who's the fake and who's the real, and you know what I'm saying? Like, I kind of got the vibe that the players were like, oh yeah, Jay's a cool guy, but like at the end of the day, he's kind of for himself. He's not for us.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Obviously, I think the vibe around Rivera is I'm for you guys, but you got to be for me.
Yeah.
So that goes back to the whole family thing and the whole trust thing, and like this culture is going to be great. And like I said it on Twitter a couple weeks ago. Like Rome wasn't built in like one day. It's going to take time. It's going to take these couple like baby steps, but instead of baby steps, I think it's going to be actually like giant steps. They're going to take leaps and bounds.
You got to build a foundation before you build a house.
Exactly. And I think they're building the foundation right now. So I think they're going to hit the ground running when the season starts because, I mean, like I said, it's all about trust. And if you want to play for who cares about you. And yeah, that's what Ron does.
Yeah, and that's a perfect example.
Yeah.
Now, the next guy that was able to be interviewed was the wide receiver coach, Jim Hostler. He spoke to reporters today, actually, I believe. Do you have some of those quotes lined up for us, Reed?
Oh, yeah. He had some very interesting quotes. He was very honest. We'll just put it that way. He said,
I love the coaching staff. There's honesty. Like,
Oh, yeah, completely. I mean, he's basically saying, like, this coaching staff seems to be aware of with what all of us fans are aware of.
But this isn't the type of honesty that Jay had in his first year, where he told RG3 to worry about himself. It's not that kind of of honesty.
He said, he says that Terry McLaurin has proven himself, but beyond that, he has no idea what he has of these other wide receivers, and that's true. I mean,
it's a good point
because of the way that this offseason's been, how it's been different. They haven't gotten to be able to see these players up close. They don't know what they have in some of these young guys. He did go on to say that he stressed how inexperienced this group was, but pointed out that they do have speed, size, and diversity. So there's a lot to be excited about. It's just they got to see it and they got to see where they're at. But I mean, I think we all knew that, but I just think it's different to see a coach be this honest and about his positions, and I liked it.
And it's questionable because Steven Sims actually played really well at the end of the season last year. It looked like him and Dwayne got along really well at the end of the season, and you would think that maybe he would include Steven into that because you know what Steven's doing, you know what he's about. But I'm glad. Look, like you said, I'm glad the honesty is great. He's not blowing smoke up your rear end, which is great to hear.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down from that Ron Rivera coaching tree where we're going to tell you straight up what it is. We're not going to cut corners. We're going to tell you bluntly the truth. And I love it because I feel like these last 20 years, we've been getting these kind of like wishy-washy kind of PC quotes from like the coaching staff and the higher ups where it's like, no, we know you're not telling the truth. Tell us what's really on your mind.
Right.
So, I mean, we criticize or players for like not telling the truth. So I mean, it's a breath of fresh air for have a coaching staff and players kind of just like speaking their minds and like, hey, this is how I feel. And as far as like they don't really know what they have, 100% right, because like you said, a lot of inexperience other than Terry McLaurin, and but a lot of upside, which is a good thing. And with this whole COVID thing, obviously they can't get on the field yet, but just from like the workouts and kind of the pictures and videos you've seen throughout the off season, and AGG making those crazy one-handed catches, I think that again, ESPN had this receiving core ranked as the number one receiving core as far as the young and up and coming receivers.
Yeah.
I know with Harmon being out, it kind of takes a blow to them, but I actually think AGG is a better Kelvin Harmon.
Right.
So with
Yeah.
that being said, I think that this receiving core is going to surprise a lot of people, just like secondary is going to surprise a lot of people.
Yeah, and this isn't like one of those like negative honesty quotes,
Yeah,
like
definitely.
you can definitely tell when it's like a negative honesty quote, but this was not one of them. This was genuine to say the least.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Kyle, you mentioned Steven Sims. He did bring up Steven Sims. He said right now he's kind of penciling in Steven Sims and Trey Quinn to be the slot guys until they get more practice in to evaluate the group. So that's good. I mean, we all kind of figured Steven Sims would be that guy, but he had a lot to say about AGG.
Yes, he did.
He did have a good
Yes,
amount to say
sir.
about him. I have the entire quote right here. When asked about Antonio Gandy Golden and how he fits with the receiver group, he said, he has a big body. He has range and is long. He has ball skills. He plays faster than his time. Everyone looks at his time from a 40-yard dash. We pay no attention to that. It is all about how fast you are on the field. He is side by side with a guy that runs a 4.3 or 4.4. If he is 15 yards in a route running the same speed, it doesn't matter what he's timed in. He has stride length and can play with the people around him. He can play fast with bodies around him because he's strong. That is why we liked him when he was coming out. How does he fit into our world? We like to throw the ball down the field. The bigger you are, the farther down the field you are, the more of a target you are to throw the ball to. Bigger players have had success in this system down the field. Big targets, you can throw the ball up and they can go get it. I love that. That was one of the things we talked about when we broke down Antonio Gandy Golden's tape, is that he looks faster on the field than his timed 40.
Yeah.
His play speed is a lot faster, but
Yeah.
it's interesting. He just broke it down in just in layman's terms. Like, look, just think about it. If you are bigger and you're downfield, if you're taller, if you have long arms and a good leaping ability, good catch radius, it's going to be easier for the quarterback to get you the ball when
Yeah.
you're that far away. I mean, that's 100% true. And I love how he broke him down. I think that they're really expecting big things from AGG, and he's kind of always seemed to have that kind of Terry McLaurin-esque mentality where
Yeah.
he just wants to work and get better. He seems like a smart guy. So I think they're excited about him.
Yeah, and it's so funny because yesterday, I was on the Redskins, the DC Tweet Team podcast, and he asked about AGG being the number 2 wide receiver, and I think it is AGG's job to lose. And I talked about, look, this kid is a great route runner. He creates separation in his footwork. He is great at being able to go after the football deep downfield, jumping over defenders and contested catches. But on top of all of that, he is a great blocker. He's a big-bodied kid. He's very strong, and he uses great form. And we've heard that Scott Turner, they're going to run the ball a lot. And when you have a guy like that in AGG who can block really well on the outside, it pays lots of dividends to the offense. And I said it last night again, Dwayne Haskins, the one thing Dwayne Haskins has is an arm. And I don't care if there's a safety and a corner draped all over AGG 40 yards downfield. If I'm Dwayne, dude, go throw it up to him. These cornerbacks and the secondary members in the league right now, there's not that many that are over 6'2", 6'1". They're majority around 5'10", 6 foot. And AGG sitting at 6'4", 240 pounds. It's going to be easy for him to be able to jump over those guys on top of his length because of his height and his athletic ability. And credit to you, Reed, because like you said, he has the mental makeup like Terry McLaurin. And when you have that kind of mindset, you can have an easy transition in this league. But he comes from Liberty. We don't know if he is still ready to go. We don't know if this is going to be an easy transition. But given his physical set, his ability as a player, but it's his mental spot. That's where I think his mentality, that's where it's going to change.
Yeah, like you just said, I can't wait for him to be running down the field and just out jumping any and every single cornerback and safety that tries to go up with him. Because let's be honest, there's no one in the secondary in the NFL is probably going to outjump him on a 50-50
Right.
ball. But yeah, what I was going to say. Oh yeah, I mean, going back to his game speed, yeah, everyone like was kind of like kind of crapping on his 40 time because it was like higher and he was labeled as a slow receiver. But again, when you're tall like that, you have longer strides. It's going to be easier for you to get down the field a lot faster than someone that's taking those choppy kind of like short strides. And look, Jerry Rice, I'm not comparing him to Jerry Rice, obviously, but Jerry Rice was a guy that they labeled as a slow receiver, but he's the best of all time because he had game speed, he had that breakaway speed, he
Technician
got the ball
too.
in his
Yeah.
hand.
Right.
So yeah, I just think that like you said, it's his job to lose as a second receiver coming in here, and I think that he has the ability mentally to play the spot from day one. Just go back to what he did the Senior Bowl. People have questions about him coming out of Liberty. Can he play up to the competition? Stuff like that. And he came out and dominated in the Senior Bowl. So I don't expect him to come out and like dominate per se from day one in the NFL, but I can definitely see him becoming a. I mean, look what they did with Devin Funchess in Carolina. I think it'll be Devin Funchess
Right.
2.0 with a mixture of Calvin Benjamin in the red zone. And look what Calvin Benjamin did before he got huge and fat.
And
He was a deadly red zone target and
Yeah. Oh yeah.
a huge downfield target.
yeah,
So
before he got all Eddie Lacy.
yeah, exactly. Before he
Yeah.
got all cheeseburgered out. So yeah, I just think that AGG the sky's the limit with him, and I'm hoping for great things, and I think we're gonna see some great things from him this year.
All
Yeah.
right, and I just want to let you guys know we might have a special guest coming up in about 15 minutes. So when that comes down, we will let you know. But I just got an email back that it should be good to go. Look, we didn't know what was happening, so we just went ahead and
This is
start
great.
recording. So
I'm
look, there's
excited.
not gonna be a time for us to be able to have that mingle session. So we're gonna have to go up and ready. I'm excited. But what was another quote from Jim Hostler?
Well, Hostler said a couple of things. One thing, he did praise Haskins, which I thought was good. And once again, this is another situation where if everybody's saying it, it's got to be true. If everybody's saying these things about Chase Young and about Ron Rivera and about Jimmy Moreland and now Dwayne Haskins, then they've got to be true. He says that Haskins and the wide receivers are already developing chemistry, and he said that that's a credit straight up to Dwayne Haskins for getting them all together, making sure that he's putting in work every day with some of his guys, and that he's excited for it. He started to praise Terry McLaurin a lot. He says that we just need to make McLaurin as good as we possibly can make him, and that Terry will see plenty of double teams and rolled coverages after his success last year. He also says that McLaurin surprised him with his game speed against good players in the secondary. He says that usually that takes years to develop. Now he wants to see if Terry can develop his route tree and challenge defenders inside and out, and that they're going to be moving Terry McLaurin all over the field to take advantage of matchups. So he knows Terry McLaurin is the guy. He knows that he's the number one. It's clear from this interview. It's just clear if you just watch football. But I think that you can expect to see Terry McLaurin play all over the field at wide receiver, and they're going to have to get him some creative. They're going to have to find some creative ways to get him the ball because until somebody proves themselves, coverages are going to be rolled all over Terry.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the most telling things about Terry because, him being a smaller guy, on the outside, they generally don't do all that well. But the smaller guys that do well on the outside are generally superstars. You talk Antonio Brown, Tyreek Hill, those smaller guys that can play the outside are so good. And that's where Terry is. But Terry can play anywhere. He can create separation anywhere on that line. And the fact that, they are saying versatility already for Terry means bad news for NFL defenses that are going to be facing the Washington football team this year because they can be able to motion him out to other spots, make sure that he's getting the mismatch on the defender. And look, if they're trailing a corner on Terry, that just opens up everything else for the offense. So more eyes on Terry, the better.
Yeah, I mean, Darius Slay came out last year and said that the two toughest receivers that he faced last year were Devontae Adams, who obviously he was seeing twice a year when he was up in Detroit, and the one, the only Scary Terry, who put in work against Darius Slay last year. And I'm probably guessing that Darius Slay has Terry McLaurin's number circled for that week one matchup because he's about to put in work on him again. And just for the whole like double team thing, like obviously like going back to last year, everyone knew that Terry was pretty much the only weapon. He was getting a lot of roll coverages. He was getting a lot of double teams. and he was still getting open, still scoring touchdowns. And
The
for him
guy
to say
had
that
3 different quarterbacks.
from 3 different quarterbacks, exactly. And for them to be like he needs to like refine his route tree. If you go back and look at some of the routes he was running last year, I mean, he was breaking down Stephon
Yeah.
Gilmore. He was
Oh yeah.
defensive MVP last year. He was breaking down, like I said, Darius Slay and just these top-notch corners and just creating so much separation in his routes. And that's one of the things that's like underrated about Terry McLaurin. If you
Chad
watch his
Johnson would
routes
say
and
that
like the
all
quickness he
day.
gets in and out of his breaks, it is ridiculous. And for him to like grow on that and go into year 2 and just get better and better, I mean, like I said, we said it before. It's been since probably Art Monk that we've actually had like a superstar receiver type. And I mean, the sky's the limit for Terry. And like I said before, I think this receiving core with Steven Sims out the slot, Antonio Gibson with the mismatch is on the linebackers and safeties. I think this receiving core is going to come out and it's going to shock a lot of people. And I can't wait because, like I said, the sky's the limit, especially if Dwayne has been putting in the work that everyone thinks he has. And just for him to be like, they're already getting a connection. It just goes back to the whole truth thing that like they're not going to sugarcoat anything, and they're not going to tell you any lies just to like appease the media and the fan base. So this is a real thing happening in Washington right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing about Terry, about him refining his routes even more. First of all, if you want to know how good Terry McLaurin's route running, just go to Chad Johnson's Twitter. He always talks about it. But I could see Terry McLaurin developing into, and I know this is high praise because he's a Hall of Famer, but kind of a Marvin Harrison type player where his route running is just so good, similar build, and he's just always going to find a way to get open even when he gets up there in age. But we'll move on to Brandon Sheriff now. Brandon Sheriff had some pretty interesting quotes. One of the things
quotes
we learned is that Brandon Sheriff is a huge Bush Light guy. And he also recommends the Bush apple. He says it's pretty good, but the regular is still the go-to. So
it's so funny. My buddy James, the hillbilly James, he always like has drank Bush Light for years upon years, and we always used to make jokes like, dude, why don't you just buy another beer? Like, what are you doing? Why do you always? And he's like, Bush Light's the best, man. Look at Brandon Sheriff.
When people like Bush Light, that's what they stick with. One of the things that he said though that stuck out to me was
I'd love to chug a beer with Sheriff, by the way.
Oh yeah, he's such a man.
Dude, he looks like one of those dudes that would like, knock it over his head.
Yeah, 3 sips and he's done. I guarantee it. Sheriff said that Sadiq Charles has asked him a lot of questions this offseason, and that he's trying to be the best veteran leader as possible to all the young guys on the roster. That is huge. There's not really a veteran presence that's usually Trent's been the leader. So now Morgan Moses and Brandon Sheriff are really going to have to step up, and it's good to see them doing that. It's also good to see the young guys asking them questions.
Yeah, sorry, Hall.
Now, I was just going to say, it kind of lends to the point that we were talking about. We'd love to see him kind of shift down inside the guard. So if he's been asking Brandon Sheriff a lot of questions about, like, say about the guard position, maybe he's thinking, like, Jerron Christian can play the left tackle, and obviously he can be the backup, but maybe they knock him inside the guard, and he can be that pull kind of swing athletic guard that the Redskins have been wanting and needing for years now. Yeah. But for like the young guys asking questions, I love that. Everyone knew that Sadiq Charles had the talent to kind of be like a first or second round pick. It was just kind of the whole off the field stuff and the work ethic kind of thing. And so for him to be asking questions to the veteran guys and just kind of being by their hip, sticking to them like glue, it's going to be a great thing for this O-line, and it's a young O-line that's building, and what better way to build with the young quarterback?
Yeah, and the one thing I want to know is Sadiq Charles asking anyone else questions? Because if he's asking Brandon Sheriff, like you alluded to, Hall, does that mean they are legitimately thinking about kicking him inside to guard? Has that been discussed? Is that a legit option? Because I would absolutely be ecstatic about it.
If we're thinking it and discussing, I'm pretty sure the coaching staff has probably thought it and discussed it.
Right.
But at the same time, they did say that they want just about every offensive lineman to learn every position. Maybe that could be a lot of what it is, but at the same time, Ron Rivera had said that he could play tackle or guard for him. So.
Yeah, look, I was going to do a film breakdown today on Jonathan Allen. Unfortunately, NFL.com doesn't allow you to do the single plays where you'll click on a play to watch based on their stats, right? So you can click on if it's a sack or something like that, but if you can't do tackles. And I was going to do Jonathan Allen, which meant that I had to watch the entire game on the coach's film, offense and defense, to be able to watch all of Jonathan Allen's plays. It kept crashing. And I got like through all the way through the halfway through the second quarter, and it crashed again, and I had to go all the way back to the beginning. I was like, dude, I'm not doing this. But the reason I'm saying this is because Wes Martin, I watched on there. Wes Martin and Chase Rulier actually did really well together at center and right guard in that Cowboy Week 17 game. I watched them do a combo block that blew Adrian Peterson wide open.
Right.
And I really like Wes Martin and the way that he plays, but I just feel like Sadiq Charles is so athletically gifted that if he is able to kick in at guard and pick it up easy, it's almost like you can't go away from it, you know?
Yeah. Chase Roy, a lot of people don't give him enough credit.
Yeah.
He's one of the best young centers in the NFL. I mean, even Bleacher Report, who always hates on the Redskins, gave him credit and named him to the underrated teams list. He was the center. But we'll move on. I'm sure we got a couple more quotes maybe that we can get in here. Sheriff said that he's excited to learn from offensive line coach John Matsko. Matsko's coached with Ron Rivera in Carolina and has routinely produced Pro Bowlers and even a couple of Hall of Famers. And how lucky are people like Sheriff and Roulier and Morgan Moses to go from Bill Callahan, who's widely considered one of the best offensive line coaches in football, and then to John Matsko. Like, this can only help them. This guy has coached a lot of Hall of Famers. He's coached a lot of Pro Bowlers. He's an older guy, and I think that this offensive line, especially the right side, like Ron said, is going to be much improved. The right side is set. From center over, it's completely set.
Yeah, and it's so good to hear that they actually have some sort of stability in mind with that offensive line. Because, you know, if they were going in saying, you know, every spot is open, you're kind of sitting here saying, oh, crap. You know, how is that going to work? But look, we're going to miss Eric Flowers a little bit, but I think Sadiq Charles is going to kick in just fine there.
Yeah. What was I about to say? I was going to say.
Me too. I forgot what you were going to say too.
I mean, Bill Callahan, like you said, was a great coach, and I don't know. I forgot what I was going to say.
I know Bill Callahan is highly respected
you
and
were
everything.
Always very critical of him.
Because, you know, a lot of people were not progressing under his watch. And I think that he was gifted with a lot of great players in Dallas and here in Washington that made him look really good. You know, and I have respect for Callahan. Obviously, he's good at what he does, but you know, there were a lot of things that were happening, a lot of holding calls were happening, and they would be going to the refs and saying, you know, we're running this in practice, and they're not throwing flags. Why are they throwing flags here? The fact that kept reoccurring.
Right.
Julie's here, by the way.
Okay.
Hi, Julie. All right, everybody. Sorry, we have to cut the kind of broadcast off a little bit. We have a special, very special guest, Julie Donaldson, the senior media content provider for the Washington football team. Thank you so much, Julie.
Thanks. Glad to be here with you. Yeah. It's kind of crazy to a couple of weeks ago, you know, I was looking forward to joining what is now the Washington football team pre and post. And all of a sudden I find myself as senior vice president of media and content, and really taking over things. And we're making a lot of great changes. It really wasn't a slow transition. It was kind of come and hit the ground running. So it's been fun.
Well, hey, it was well deserved.
Yes.
We in our group chat when you were named, we were all like, "How good is that?" We're like, "She's the perfect person for this. It's well deserved." So congratulations.
Yes, congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, I have to be honest. I was a little nervous of how the reception was going to be, but it's been overwhelming supportive of myself and kind of what we're doing. Again, already, you know, I just put out and released what we're going to do on the digital platform. And we have this unfiltered series that we're putting out there that I think fans are just absolutely going to love, because you already know the stats of the guys, you know your favorite players, but you need to know how they are in games, you know, what their gaming ritual is in there, like what kind of kicks they wear, you know, what kind of food they put in, what they drive. And we're going to give you so much access to that. We're really excited for it. So thanks. I appreciate the support.
Yeah,
absolutely. So, Julie, I have to ask, you know, you were around the older regime, and obviously you're in the building now. What is the difference? You know, if you could kind of in a couple words describe what it's like now in the atmosphere around the park.
Yeah, it is a lot different. And of course, when I was offered this job, I did a lot of homework.
Mm.
I have a lot of friends that have been with that organization in the past that left under circumstances that very frustrated them and they didn't like and it didn't agree with.
Mm.
And I have a lot of friends that have been in that organization for many years and they don't want to have that cloud haunting them. So
Mm.
like we're well aware of everything that was going on, but I can tell you this: I would not have joined this organization if I didn't believe in the leadership that they have right now. I am in those rooms. I do have the opportunity to get to know who is directing and taking this franchise in what I believe is going to be a very different direction. And I think fans are going to be able to see that very clearly. We're going to be very transparent. You're not going to have to wait to get information. You're going to be able to say, wait a second, I want to know what's going on. I can go to the team to get that. I think there was a breakdown of communication before. People in that building are good people. They really are. And they want to put out a good product. They want to get this team back to winning. They want to get it back to something they're proud of. So I'm kind of excited, or I am really excited to be a part of that.
Yeah, and you have done a great job so far. I mean,
Yeah.
with everything going on this offseason, that you could point out a lot of negatives, but we have talked about the turnaround from last season, which is devastating for Washington football fans. But we are on social media a lot, and there is an uptick in confidence with this team, and there's a lot of credit to the social media guys and yourself for kind of generating this positive energy around the team. So we have to thank you for that. And I have to give credit because that 2-minute video that you guys released of Ron Rivera narrating was absolute gold.
Right? It kind of gives me goosebumps a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, I think this organization, or not, I know this organization is so sensitive to the history and to what that means to the fans.
Right.
And look, it's hard. Change is really hard. Having to say goodbye to the name that you have treasured for so long is not an easy thing to do. And I think everybody understands that. But we're also hoping that you kind of grasp where it's going in the future. And this is a new era. Head coach Ron Rivera, he's easy to buy into the leadership, the way that he's going to hopefully turn this franchise around from just three wins last season. And I don't think it's just a front at all. I wouldn't be here if I thought that it was a front. I would have just stayed where I was and just covered the team from the distance. That was a pretty great job as it was. But yeah, it's really exciting. That video kind of shows you that, look, we're honoring the past and we're looking forward to tomorrow.
Yeah, and a lot of credit for saying that because it jogs something in my mind. When the kind of report came out, the bad report, everyone thought, this is just they're going to just try to throw this under the rug, right? They're going to try to sweep under the rug. But like you said, when they brought you on, it was almost like, wait, no, this is legit. They are actually changing. And so it was a great job by them because they could not have picked anybody more perfect, Julie. I will be honest with you there. Now, but let's talk about some football. The Washington football team signed Dontrelle Inman recently after tragically losing Kelvin Harmon for the season. Can you kind of give us an input and an inside look into what made them go with Dontrelle Inman rather than going with Josh Gordon or other guys that are on free agency?
Yeah, well, look, you look at what they're trying to build this roster. There's a lot of one-year prove-it kind of guys out there that, Ron Rivera is trying to sit there and evaluate what he has and what he can try and get out of guys. They obviously need a little bit of extra depth. I mean, you have Terry McLaurin, but you're kind of going, okay, who's really going to step up opposite that? And they were relying on Harmon to kind of be that guy. So they needed extra depth. Inman is a guy who's been around the league a little bit. He's been a journeyman. He hasn't really found his home. The scouting reports that I got back on him, and I got 3 different scouting reports from teams that he's been on because he's been on quite a few. They said, look, he's not going to be the fastest guy out there. The speed is not what you're bringing him in for, but what you are bringing him for is the route running. And he has the ability, all 3 of them said he has the ability to catch the ball, to be able to bring that in, which of course is like that seems to be a given, but you can't be sitting there turning it over.
Right.
So they said a smart quarterback will appreciate that. You're going to know where he's going to be and he'll be there. So look, hopefully he brings a little bit of leadership. That wide receiving room is very young. I was even talking to Steven Sims Jr. the other day, and I said, who do you go to talk about breaking down film? How do you improve? How do you do better? Right. And he goes, Terry McLaurin. I said, you guys are both rookies. It's like you need a veteran in that locker room. You need a veteran in that room that's going to kind of bring something to them. And just think about it. They are so young. So look, Inman has an opportunity. I don't think it's as much as who's going to be starting opposite Terry McLaurin. It's just who's going to get the more snap counts.
Right. And Jim Hostler kind of stressed that in his interview, how young this team was. And he says he doesn't know what they have really. And so it makes sense to bring in somebody like that, especially with the Cody Latimer situation. I think they were kind of relying on him. And then that whole thing happened, and it's disappointing, but it is what it is, and you move on. And we wish the best to him, of course. And I'm excited to see what Dontrelle Inman can do.
Yeah, I know they were very frustrated with Lattimore as well, as they were kind of hoping that he would be somebody that would come in who's known as a good kid, and it's unfortunate the way that that's gone. That he is on the commissioner's exempt list. But look, you still have to go out there. You have to get bodies, and it's going to be open to see somebody come in and step up and make some plays. So, when you do have that competition and they get fair chances, who knows? Maybe there could be another McLaurin just kind of waiting to come out of the seams and burst and be on the scene.
AGG.
And Julie, one of the things that we were just talking about before you came on, we were talking about Sadiq Charles and the possibility, and he talked about Brandon Sheriff in his interview, talked about how Sadiq Charles was kind of asking him some tips and asking him a lot of questions. So to me, I'm sitting here thinking, well, did he ask anybody else questions? Because Sheriff is a guard. Is there a possibility that this coaching staff is looking to transition Sadiq Charles into left guard?
No, I think they're totally relying on him to take over, hopefully, that left tackle position. I mean, that's a big question mark for them there. You have Sadiq Charles going up, that Jaron Christian and Cornelius Lucas out there for that. So you've got three guys getting the competition on it. Jaron Christian is somebody that there is kind of a little bit slower in the progression, and so he has a lot of learning curves and but he's going to get those opportunities to start. But they're really hoping that Sadiq Charles can step right in and look. He balled out, he had some of those knocks against him of getting in trouble for breaking the drug policy that they had there. But, hopefully now that's going to be something he's wiser on, he's going to be more mature on, and they're believing that he can be a stud, and he probably fell to them a little bit. So it's a big question mark on the left side of the line. And of course that would be quite important, especially if you're Dwayne Haskins Jr., you want that locked down. But I don't think they're looking at a guard. I think it's tackle.
And it's really surprising to hear that, because they were preaching versatility, and I was really hoping, because we watched his film and we were like, dude, he would be a very, very good guard right away if needed.
Yeah, well, I mean, here's the thing. Yes, they do believe you have to play multiple positions, and we've heard that from every single coach on this staff. Is they want them to know that, they want them to learn that. And come on, I mean, we've seen how this line goes in years past. Inevitably, somebody's going to get hurt, and you have to shuffle them around. Right. And so it is wise, it is smart to say, okay, this is what we really want you for. This is what we hope you go for. But should plans change, we need to know that you can step in that other position as well. Yeah. So you see a lot of guys that are capable and are getting the techniques of both. But I do know that they are hoping him to be tackled. But it wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, you need to make sure that he can be moved if possible.
Absolutely. And so, Julie, yesterday, the Washington football team released on Twitter the Landon Collins helmet that just threw Twitter a buzz, and that looked incredible. That was a great product that was released. I have to ask you a question. Could the Washington fan base be expecting any other changes to the uniform?
Yeah, I mean, well, you saw the uniforms released when they first said the Washington football team. You saw the mock-ups of Dwayne Haskins Jr. and Chase Young, Ryan Kerrigan, what it's going to look like. It's clean, it's classic, it's it's just straight up football with just the Washington across the front. The numbers on the helmets, I know that's something they went back and forth on, but the feedback that I've been getting is I think most fans are kind of thinking it's cool,
great.
And that's part of it, of Washington football, is being a little retro, throwing a little bit back to those years. And I think that's something that this younger generation is almost kind of appreciating a little bit as well. I'm all on board for it. I think it's a great look.
Yeah, and
those Alabama players, I know we got a lot of Alabama players. They should be pretty pumped about that, But the numbers on the helmets, hey, I wonder if they had any input on that. Probably not, but ode to Alabama. I know you don't like that, but.
And Julie, you being a Florida, you went to the Florida Gators, and I guess your alma mater, your fellow guy, Jordan Reed, just recently signed with the San Francisco 49ers. How do you feel about that move?
I mean, I'm so happy for him. Right. If you would have said that he would have been with Kyle Shanahan and have the opportunity to win a Super Bowl, you wouldn't have thought that it was going to be with San Francisco. Right. You would have hoped that would have been back in Washington. But look, he's been through a lot. There's no questioning his talent, his skill set that he can bring. If he's healthy and if he can stay out there. And that's something you want first, is you want safety first. I mean, look, this is not something to mess around with, concussions. And we've seen so many times how it impacts their lives, their personal lives, the children that they are still trying to raise and bring up. So, hope he's healthy. I wish him the best of luck. And of course, I'm going to want to see him succeed.
Yeah, absolutely. We just want to see him ball out. And look, it's unfortunate that it ended here in Washington, but hope for the best for Jordan Reed. Now, I only have 2 questions for you, and they're predictions. The first one would be, if you could predict who the captains are going to be on this team this year, who would they be?
Look, I think Ryan Kerrigan's always an easy one. I think Landon Collins is probably an easy one up there for that as well. I'd really like to see Dwayne Haskins Jr. just really step into that role, because that's the biggest thing that, head coach Ron Rivera really challenged him to, is to step into that leadership role. So I'd like to see how much far he's come along with that as well. If I'm going to go even further on offense, it wouldn't surprise me Brandon Sheriff or Terry McLaurin. So I threw a lot of names out there, but I think those are the guys that are leaders in the locker room. So
what about Adrian Peterson?
Yeah, definitely Adrian as well. I mean, as I was finishing that up, I was thinking of him for sure. And you also saw that he was the guy that really took over the huddles last season as well. He was the one that says it was right in there and leading it. And I know, of course, he has the respect from everybody in that room. How could he not? I mean, we did a story today on the Hall of Fame locks, and it's a 100% that he's going to be a Hall of Famer. So people understand just what he brings and what he means to this franchise.
And Julie, I got one more for you. And every guest that comes on here, I ask them the same question to finish it off. And if you could pick and predict one player that is going to improve the most, take the biggest step under this coaching staff, who would it be?
I'm going to go with let's say Montez Sweat. I think he's a player that, was a little bit of adjustment coming on. He needed to develop a few extra moves. They went up to get him. They got him in the first round, so the expectations are high. He came on a little bit late in the season. He still managed 7 sacks, had a couple at the end of the season as well in one game. So I think with, the addition of Chase Young, the rotation that's going to be in there, he's going to be going forward 95% of the time. You're not going to be seeing him drop back at all. He's got the wingspan to be able to go out there and bat those balls and get to the quarterback. So I think he's going to have an opportunity to really, really clamp down the season.
Yeah, and has he gotten bigger muscular wise?
Yeah, he has beefed up a little bit. I do know that they wanted to work on some of his lower body strength a little bit to try and get him, a little bit more stable against the run and stuff. But look, he's going to be going straight after the quarterback. And I asked someone that, and I said, look, you take him and you take Chase Young, and they just look like prototypes. And so if you're going to be carrying them, and when I met Chase Young, I was like, okay, I get it. I see. Yes, sir. We're excited. And so if you compare them as the prototypes, then he's beefed up some.
And I'm really happy to hear that. And look, every single guest we've had on has had a different player. And Montez Sweat is a great pick, not only because, hopefully he won't be dropping back into coverage 30% of the time, but adding that weight and having 2 great pass rushers off the edge is only going to make this team and this defense so much better. Well, Julie,
you know why you can go with so many is because the team's young. And again, that's why Rivera came in here. Is there's a lot of young guys with potential that you can coach up. So there's so many on the team, and they played the most rookies last season. They had the most playing time out there. So there's really a lot of potential, I think, for a lot of guys to really advance in their sophomore years.
And real quick, what prediction for record this season?
Oh man, I hate this question.
On the spot.
I'm sorry. I just thought of it real quick, and I know I only had one left, but I was like, I want to ask this.
I'll go for 7 wins.
You'll go for 7? Okay. Well, that's a really good one. And Julie, I know you're very busy. You are doing interviews left and right, and not only on top of your normal day job. So I really appreciate you taking the time out and coming on our little old pod and talking Washington football.
Thank you.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Congratulations again, Julie, and thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julie.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Woo! That was exciting to say the least, my friends. I mean, my goodness.
Got a lot of stuff to look forward to, man. It sounds like I'm excited.
Dude. That was the most nerve-wracking. This is probably one of the most nerve-wracking days that I've had, and I'm so happy that Julie was able to take time out, because she is electrifying, to say the least.
In the world, and nobody deserves that position more than she did. Like I said, we literally talked about it that day. Well, when that happened, we were all like, "What? That's so well deserved. What a perfect person for that." And
I mean, I've been a huge fan since Redskins 100. I'd watch it on NBC Sports every day, or every Monday when it came on. So, like you said, no one deserves that role better any more than her, and she's doing a great job so far. And she's about to take the team into the future, just like the rest of the coaching staff.
I'm excited for the more insight into the players that she was just talking about. That's the first I've heard of that. That's going to be I think that'll be pretty cool. That can be some pretty big news to some fans.
Yeah, and I think it's incredibly telling that she was very hard and straight up and saying Sadiq Charles is going left tackle. I mean, they're not even thinking like, you know, Julie's plugged in.
She completely shot your dream down.
Yeah,
right
I know.
She just goes, nope.
I've been talking about for days.
Yeah.
Oh, she just shot that right down.
That's good. Know that they do expect Sadiq Charles to go in there and actually compete, that he does have the ability, he does have the talent. They expect him to go in there and be the left tackle. I mean, that's going to be competition, but that's why they drafted him. So
and it's advertised, and like I said, we've been spoiled with Chris Samuels and Trent Williams. So I mean, if he can take over and fill in for the next 10 plus years, that's 30 plus years of left tackle greatness.
Yeah,
I'm okay.
Then you got to add the Hogs into that. Just, I know it was decades prior, but then all of a sudden, Redskins seem to always have good offensive linemen if that's the case. You know?
Yeah, and I think it's actually very, very telling, and it brings me confidence and happiness to hear Julie say, you know, she wouldn't have taken this job if she knew it was going to stay the same. And the fact that she is very adamant about this is happening, this is legit, and that she's on board with it is absolutely amazing. This organization is finally changing, and it's changing for the better. It makes me just so happy.
Yeah. 100%.
Absolutely. We're like the last of like a dying breed, like people in their late 20s, early 30s that are like still fans of the team. For the most part, a lot of our people our age have just turned their back and ran for the hills. So yeah, I'm just happy that we're sticking around for the turnaround, and I cannot wait.
That was so much fun. Again, thank you so much, Julie. Thank you for coming on. Obviously, she's incredibly busy right now, and the fact that she took time out just speaks volumes about her as a person. All right, everybody. Well, that's going to wrap us up for this show. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Kyle.
I'm Hall.
And I'm still in shock right now. I couldn't think of anything clever to say.
I know, because you're just in that awe. Dude, it came out of nowhere.
It really did. It was just like, oh, cut the conversation. She's on.
Okay. Sorry, Brendan Sheriff. Your quotes were cut short.
Yep. Sorry about that. Look, we got the best one of Sheriff's quotes, didn't we? About the Bush Light.
No.
Absolutely.
Well, that's important.
All right, everybody. Please go and like us on Facebook. You can subscribe to us on YouTube and iTunes. You can find us on Good Pods as well. And also, you can find us and follow us on Twitter, on Instagram. You can follow at The Burgundy Zone, at The Money Mike TBZ Money Mike 301. And then what are the numbers? Old Dad. What is it?
It's Mike Reed 2156, or you can just type in Old Dad.
Old Dad.
The way you can remember it is it's Mike Reed, Sean Taylor, LeVar Arrington, because those are my two favorite players growing up. So there you go.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also my PIN number for my debit card.
Dude,
I'm just kidding.
Dude, I'm telling you, one day I'm gonna talk to Chad Dukes and have him tell us what happened between him and LeVar. I've
always wondered that, man.
I need to know. Dude,
apparently it was bad, and I want to know what happened, because I love LeVar. I thought they were perfect together.
I love their show together. I know I like to make fun of Chad Dukes a lot, but you're right. I do respect him. He goes on there and talks by himself. That's got to be so hard. He always provides good content. But him and LeVar together were amazing.
What were you saying, Hall?
I said he goes the longest out of all the other radio shows too.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he does. So respect to Chad Dukes.
Absolutely. All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much to Julie for stopping by and gracing us with her presence. Man, I wanted to call her the Queen of Ashburn. I completely butchered that. Oh, man. Why couldn't I remember that? All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you check us out on Tuesday. We are going to be joined by another guest, Lake Lewis, to get another inside look into the Washington football team and training camp. Make sure you tune in then. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Washington football. Woo!